welcome back to Exeter and Lara. Never thought I'd be saying that anytime soon, but here I am, and thought I'd bring everybody up to speed with where the channel is, and obviously everything that's been going on over the last, must be 3.5 years since the last video that I rolled out. Shortly after completing the footage of that particular video, I moved on to making more progress on the layout, and the next stage that I would have been working on would have been the Royal Mail parcels depot area just outside the station, or just at the end of platforms 1 and 3. Work steadily progressed on that. I didn't film any of it. There was just a few pictures, and I got roughly about halfway into building that before all of a sudden my whole world came crashing down around me and completely caught off guard. As some of you will probably remember, the plans were to focus mainly on the Exeter side of the layout, and obviously what was originally the Lara side was dismantled, and preparations were put in place for obviously an upcoming house move. So I built new baseboards which housed the fiddle yard. Those baseboards themselves would have been used for a new layout as and when we would have moved house. I still have those baseboards, and I will look into possibly using those at some point soon. Towards the end of 2022, the layout was finally dismantled, and was probably one of the most heartbreaking things that I've actually ever done. Knowing full well that I'd actually only got so far into building the next stages of it, and only halfway through it, it was almost like building something, then instantly reversing it and starting to take it all apart. It was quite sad to actually see the layout being broken up, and knowing full well that I never completed it. But obviously, as I say, life goes on. I salvaged an awful lot of the stuff off of there. A lot of stuff was obviously scenery, was all thrown into a skip. The river went into the skip, and a lot of the track, because that was also glued down, was also thrown into a skip along with all the baseboards. Most of the buildings and things that were obviously removable were salvaged. Those subsequently, over the last few years, I have actually sold some of those bits and pieces off, with obviously no intentions of returning back to the hobby. That was my original plans. I'd kind of found that I thought the hobby was one of the biggest things that actually caused a hindrance in my life, whereas in fact it was probably the opposite way around. The hobby itself actually kind of gave me an escape, little escape room, somewhere to go, somewhere to hide, and somewhere to get away with, or get away from everything that was going on in my life at that particular time. So the hobby does have some benefits for all of our mental health, and I'm sure many of you can probably vouch for that to some degree. One of the things that I did make a decision to do back in the early days was to instantly list all of my locomotives and rolling stock on eBay. These were all kind of ready to go as listings, and then a couple of my friends did jump in and say, have a good long think before you do sell them, because you may well later down the line regret doing so. So I did hold back on selling my stock straight away, and I kept that in boxes packed away for at least a couple of years before eventually firing open those boxes and having a good look at what I've got. One thing for sure is that I really wanted to start living my life again. My life that I had before wasn't great. I haven't been out and ventured much around the world, and I certainly haven't really ventured much around our own little island here in the UK. So as it kind of stands at the moment, most of my rolling stock I did sell. I do hold just a few bits and pieces which were quite sentimental. Most of my engines I've still got. That was one of the things that I was quite reluctant to want to let go of. But nevertheless, the fact that I sold my rolling stock gave me a much more prosperous future, and it gave me the ability to get the one and only thing that I've actually wanted for an awful long time, and that was to put the funds from that sale of all my railway stuff towards buying a wonderful, lovely camper van. As I said, I've not really been out much around the UK, certainly haven't toured much of the world, and I was really shocked at just how much of the UK that I've not visited, considering I've now in my mid-40s, and ownership of a camper van, as I said, was always a dream, and I wanted to make that dream a reality. So with that in mind, I got rid of everything that I wanted to get rid of my model railway collection, and I went out and I just spent most of my time over the last year or two just touring everywhere around the UK, and thoroughly enjoyed every single moment of it. However, and I'm sure many of us will probably relate to this, is that once you've got the bug for model railways, that bug certainly doesn't go away. And I think, like Richard from Everard Junction recently said, that that's almost like it's a disease, and that disease follows you around. One of the reasons as to why I probably didn't sell my engines, because I always looked at it as, well, you never know. And that for sure was always going to be one of the things, knowing full well that I would eventually come back to this hobby, because it was a hobby that I really did enjoy. Over the last few years, I have occasionally got the weathering stuff back out of the box again. I still have all of that, and have had a go at some weathering, though, pardon the pun, become quite rusty at doing so, which I'm also so thankful of actually making the videos that I did, so I can actually go back over my own stuff and start learning or getting my skills back up to scratch again. For me, it's mainly a winter thing. I prefer to be off out doing stuff in the summer, with the winter obviously being the fact that the daytime hours are quite short. It gives me something to do in the evening times now, where I can sit down and actually start weathering stuff and trial and error of plenty of new techniques and materials that I've not actually used in the past at all. So that leads me on to let you folk know exactly where I'm going to be going with the channel now. And I think there's been a fair few comments recently asking if I was ever going to come back to the hobby, and I never really ruled it out. Certainly, obviously, when it comes to YouTube as well, would I ever rule out YouTube? I did at first. I thought it was a lot of hard work and effort to put together videos. However, it's kind of nice to still have that the YouTube channel up, and actually the prospects of actually putting something together in a video and actually highlighting some of the weathering and modelling that I can do, and putting it out there as tutorials for you folk to have a go. So I will be looking at returning to YouTube fully. Certainly I'm going to make a lot more in the way of weathering videos. I've got the ability to do that. When it comes to building a model railway, that's a different matter at the moment. Obviously, my plans were a few years ago was to build a whopping great sort of 20 odd foot long exhibition layout of Lara once we would have moved house. Obviously, that idea is scrapped completely. But I do have the room to build something as an end-to-end style layout, modular based, and something which is can be used obviously on the exhibition circuit. That's the plans. There was the plans back then. That's obviously certainly the plans that I've got moving forward. I currently don't actually have any loft space, certainly nothing on the grand scale of what I had in my old family home. That's long gone. I live in a very small cottage, and the house is made up of like 3 very small loft spaces, which you can probably barely get a 4th radius overall track mat in there, in any of those loft spaces. So taking a lot of consideration and time into thinking about the model railway, what if I was to build one, what could I do? So I've got a nice sized dining room area, and I can got the space in there to be able to put together a modular layout, something of around about sort of 10 to 12 foot. That's my plans to do something like that over the winter period, start the process of building a model railway. And I'm going to turn my focus onto obviously the region that I was modelling before, which is Exeter St David's. And if anyone's familiar with St David's will know that the station housed a really nice stable point just behind platform 6. This was mainly the refuelling area, and obviously the stable point where any engines would park up if they were not in use, and any ones that were on revenue service would obviously come in and out of the station into the fueling point to refuel, and then leave to go and pick up their coaches before heading off into their destinations. So I'm going to take a good look at as much research as I possibly can, watching as many videos as I can, and trying to go back through a lot of my pictures that I had stored when I was building the main Exeter station, and I'm going to build a simple end-to-end layout, which I can hopefully one day get out there on the exhibition circuit. Obviously this is still in the planning stages at the moment, so there'll be a little while before I manage to kickstart something in terms of building a model railway, but certainly for the time being I will try and turn my attention to producing some short videos of any weathering styles and tips and techniques that I manage to pick up over the next few months. Anyway, I'm going to leave it right there, and thanks everybody for tuning in, and thanks for the support, and anyone who's new to the channel, welcome aboard, and hopefully we'll get some new videos up soon. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.